Here is your cheeseburger and sweet potato fries. Enjoy your meal.
Looks great, thank you.
You know, my life was running on cruise control, the good kind of cruise control. The one where you're in the fast lane, sun shining, and the numbers on the dash are just pretty, for real. I'm Julian Vance, and I own a chain of high-end restaurants. My flagship being this place called the Gilded Compass, right in the heart of the North Tower Financial District. We're talking custom leather booths and cocktails that cost more than my first rent check. I built this empire, or rather, I expanded the legacy my father left me, and for the last few years, I was strictly the big picture guy. Board meetings, expansion capital, signing off on a $5 million lease in Miami. That kind of high altitude stuff. But looking back, that distance, it's what allowed the rot to set in, and man, did it set in deep. It was a Tuesday late. The city outside my 14th floor corner office was just a mosaic of quiet, expensive lights. And I was wrapping up what I thought was another stellar quarter for the Compass. Revenue up 15%, reviews hovering at 4.8 stars. Everything, on paper, was pristine. But then the email landed, and the whole world tilted. Anonymous sender. Subject line, check the pot. They're eating us alive. I clicked on it, my stomach doing that cold, immediate drop. It wasn't some crazy rant. It was 3 attachments, surgical in their detail. One was a screenshot of Marcus Thorne's bank deposits. Marcus, my floor manager, the guy I promoted, the guy with the expensive suits, and the business degree I'd personally vouched for. The deposits were always these odd, specific amounts: $895 one day, $1,235 another. Numbers that just smelled wrong. Like a spreadsheet error, but too consistent to be accidental. The second was a faded, handwritten note showing a server's pooled tip total $60 next to a receipt where the credit card tip alone was $45. I mean, the math didn't even try to hide the lie. It was insulting. But the third attachment, the one that made me physically push back from my desk, was the HR file. I'd already noticed the red flag, but I'd buried it under scheduling conflicts and personal reasons. Employee turnover at the Gilded Compass had spiked 280% in the last 6 months. 280%. That wasn't just staff leaving. That was a lifeboat being flung overboard. I started digging into the exit interviews, and 3 files. 3 had notes saying decline to elaborate after mentioning management practices, with the interviewer closing the note almost immediately, like someone was trying to sweep the real story under the damn rug. My father, God rest his soul, he started the Compass as a simple neighborhood tavern 30 years ago, a place where people knew your name and your handshake was your word. He used to say, "Julian, your people aren't a cost, they're the compass itself. You protect them like a treasure." I had let my eye wander. I'd become a CEO, not a restaurateur, and I knew instantly I was failing his legacy. The financial district had emptied out hours ago, but I sat there, staring at the old black and white photo of my dad on opening day, standing proudly in front of that original bar, wearing this battered, 20-year-old Carhartt work jacket. That jacket, man, it was still hanging in my closet at home. I closed my laptop. The board meeting could wait. The projections could wait. I didn't need spreadsheets or more internal audits. I needed the truth, raw and unfiltered, the kind you only see when people think you're nobody. I typed 3 words into a new note on my phone: go undercover. Friday. Friday rolled around like a freight train. I drove to a bank clear across town. Don't ask why, but I felt like I needed the anonymity, and I pulled out $40 in 20s. I left my credit cards, my engraved titanium watch, even my wedding ring in the safe. I needed to be scrubbed clean of my net worth. Back home, I pulled that old Carhartt jacket out of the back of the closet. It was faded, paint splattered, smelled faintly of sawdust and honest sweat, and it barely fit my shoulders now. I threw on the oldest pair of jeans I could find, and my Timberlands, the ones where the soles were starting to separate at the toe. From years of yard work, I looked in the mirror, and the transformation was total, irreversible. Julian Vance, the CEO, was gone. I looked like a guy who just clocked out of a triple shift pouring concrete. My father's voice, quiet and firm, echoed in my head. You learn who people are when they think you're nobody. I parked 3 blocks from the Gilded Compass, walked the distance, and felt the November cold seeping right through the thin lining of the jacket. The Friday night rush was in full swing. Through the massive plate glass windows, I saw the beautiful chaos. Bankers and Brooks Brothers, lawyers toasting deals, the bar for deep, all feeding the beast I had created. And standing near the kitchen pass, clipboard in hand, was Marcus Thorne, radiating expensive confidence, watching his kingdom. I pushed through the heavy oak door. The hostess, a sweet-faced young woman I recognized from the org chart, gave me a professional smile that immediately faltered when she took in the sight of me. Worn boots, torn collar. I saw the flicker of judgment in her eyes, the immediate mental reassignment to the low-value column. "Just you tonight?" she asked, her voice just a little too bright. "Yeah, just me," I mumbled, keeping my head down. She scanned the room, bypassing the empty window tables and the comfortable booths, landing exactly where I expected. "We have an open spot at the bar counter. If that works, perfect," I said. She led me through the packed room. I passed right by Marcus, who glanced at me for a half-second, no flicker of recognition. Just a quick assessment, and then his eyes were back on the high-value clientele. I was invisible. I was nothing. I sat down at the counter. A bartender, a burly guy named Sam, approached. "What can I get for you, partner?" "I'll wait for the waitress, thanks." I needed to see the floor staff in action. I scanned the room and saw her, Chloe Hayes. She was moving with this quiet, focused efficiency, juggling a tray full of drinks, her smile genuine for every table. She looked tired, like she hadn't slept a full 8 hours in a decade, but her movements were precise. She was my test. She was Marcus's test. Chloe finished dropping drinks at a foretop and turned, grabbing her notepad. She approached me, and her greeting was different. No overbright, calculated professional smile. It was real, maybe a little weary, but authentic. "Hi there. What can I get started for you tonight?" I looked down at the menu, cleared my throat, forcing my voice to sound rough, hesitant. "Hey, what's the absolute cheapest thing you have on the menu?" I fumbled with my phone, pretending to check a non-existent bank balance, doing the whole performance of embarrassment. She didn't miss a beat. Her pen hovered over the pad. "We've got our house-cut fries. They're $7, really popular. Or our mozzarella sticks. Those start at $8. No judgment, zero pity. Just facts delivered with dignity." I kept the act going, forcing the words out. "Just water is fine. And the fries. Small order. That's all." A heavy silence fell. She didn't write anything. She just looked at me. Really looked. It wasn't the fleeting assessment I'd gotten from the hostess or Marcus. It was recognition. The kind of recognition you only get from someone who's also been there. "Long day?" she asked, her voice dropping, almost a whisper, confidential. The question hit me hard because it wasn't about the order. It was about the why. It broke the script. I dropped the performance. "Yeah," I admitted honestly. "Long week, actually." She nodded slowly, setting her pen down, leaning against the bar counter a little. Her posture said, "I'm not rushing you. We're just two humans here." "Can I be honest with you?" she asked. I was guarded now. This was going off script. "Okay, the kitchen," she continued, speaking low, almost conspiratorially. "We have a new line cook, great kid, but he can't portion a burger patty to save his life. He made for too many tonight. They're gorgeous. House-made sauce, aged Gouda, bacon crumble." She paused, her tired eyes holding mine. "My manager, Marcus, he hates food waste, and honestly, that's one of the few things he's right about. In about 10 minutes, those burgers are hitting the trash." She leaned in just a little more. "Would you be willing to help us out? Save a burger from a sad end?" "I don't care what policy says." Marcus crossed his expensive arms. "You know the rules about unauthorized comps. That," he tapped the screen, "is coming out of your tips tonight. $24. And you know what? I don't need servers who waste time on people who don't tip. You're cut at 9 instead of 11. Go clock out." I heard every single word. Every single word. My heart was pounding, not from the confrontation, but from the raw injustice of it. Chloe's face flickered for 1 second, maybe pain, maybe resignation, but she recovered instantly. "Fine," she said, calm and steady. "That's it. She submitted the order and walked toward the kitchen. Marcus watched her go, then called out just loud enough for her to hear. His voice dripping with spite. "Bleeding heart's gonna bleed you dry, Hayes." I stared down at the counter. The emotion was gone, replaced by a cold, hard resolve. She wasn't just kind. She was paying for my meal out of tips she desperately needed, and she'd accepted her punishment without hesitation. This wasn't an audit anymore. This was personal. This was about a person who chose dignity over safety, and the man I'd hired to lead was actively punishing her for it. 8 minutes later, Chloe returned, setting the Gilded Compass Burger Deluxe down in front of me, perfectly plated. Sweet potato fries arranged with care, a side salad, and tucked beside the plate, a small ramekin of chocolate mousse. The dessert I hadn't ordered. "I know," she smiled gently, "but you said it's been a long week. Chocolate helps, trust me." She refilled my water, adding a slice of lemon this time. I looked up at her, barely able to speak. "Chloe, I heard what he said. About your tips, about cutting your hours. You didn't have to do this." She met my eyes, and something in her expression softened, the exhaustion receding just a little. "Yes, I did," she said simply. She glanced briefly toward Marcus across the room. "My dad raised me to believe that how you treat people when nobody's watching is who you really are. Even if someone is watching, it doesn't change what's right." She paused, then looked directly at me. "But you matter. Everyone who sits at this bar matters. Don't let anyone tell you different, okay?" I couldn't respond. I just picked up my fork with a trembling hand and took a bite. The burger was incredible, sure, but I could barely taste it. For the next 2 hours, I watched her work, forcing myself to eat slowly, observing everything. I saw her intercept the hostess to ensure an elderly couple got a window seat, instead of a table near the bathroom. I saw a blowhard in an expensive suit snap his fingers at her for more water, and she simply refilled his glass with the same warm smile she'd given me. I saw her clock out at 8:50, exactly as Marcus ordered, but instead of leaving, she went to every one of her tables, giving detailed notes to the replacement server. "Table 6 has a dairy allergy. Table 12 is celebrating an anniversary. Give them extra lemon dot at 9:15. The other servers were called to the back office for the tip pool ritual. I stood up, left a $20 bill all I could spare, and walked slowly toward the exit, positioning myself where I could see partially into the back office window. The ritual was sickeningly efficient. Everyone emptied their cash tips into the jar. Marcus counted with his back to them, then distributed the envelopes. I watched Chloe open hers, her face showing the same tired recognition I'd seen earlier. She got up, went to her locker, and pulled something out, a worn manila envelope. She wrote something on a scrap of paper, folded it, and hid the envelope behind her uniform again. I left the restaurant, walked the 3 blocks to my car, and sat in the cold, unyielding darkness. I had seen everything I needed to see. Saturday morning, I was in the office at 7 a.m. I didn't call the lawyer yet. I called my IT director first, overriding his sleepy protests. "I need security footage from the Compass back office camera, last 8 weeks. Pull it, don't tell anyone. I need it by noon." By noon, I was locked in my office, laptop open, reviewing the surveillance video. I isolated the dates from the anonymous email: October 31st, November 3rd, the night before, November 7th, the footage from October 31st, 11:47 p.m., Marcus, alone in the back office, closing the door. He pulls the tip jar from under the counter, counts the cash with his back mostly to the camera, but his hands are visible. Quick, practiced movements. He slides a thick portion into his jacket pocket. Then he recounts what's left, divides it into 4 pathetic piles, and slips them into envelopes. The whole process took 3 minutes. The casual efficiency of a thief who has done this hundreds of times. I felt a wave of nausea. I fast-forwarded through 43 separate instances over 8 weeks. Every single shift Marcus managed, the same pattern: count, pocket, distribute. I calculated the rough estimate based on visible bill denominations. He had stolen at least $12,000 in just those 8 weeks. Maybe more. I called my lawyer Dale, at home. "We need to meet. Now, somewhere public, away from the district." We met at a coffee shop far uptown. Dale, after reviewing the footage, was grim. "Julian, this is felony wage theft. The Department of Labor will prosecute this for real. But I recommend you fire him and recover what you can first. Then you decide about the charges. I want him prosecuted," I said. The words coming out flat and cold. My father built this place on honor, and this snake violated not just my employees, but that memory. We need to document everything. Sunday morning, I was back in the financial records. I cross-referenced every one of Marcus's shifts over the last 18 months with the POS data. I used industry-standard ratios to estimate the cash tips based on the credit card tips, which were auto-tracked and paid by payroll. I built the spreadsheet, meticulously detailing what should have been distributed. And then I found the smoking gun. The bank deposits, November 7th. The POS data showed over $1,235 in total tips, credit card and estimated cash. Marcus had told the staff only $835 total, pocketing all the cash. But on November 8th, Marcus deposited exactly $1,235 into his personal checking account. He wasn't just stealing the cash. He was taking the credit card tips, too, then distributing only the cash tips he'd allocated, lying about the total. It was a perfect, sickening match. I spent Sunday evening interviewing former employees. Emma Martinez, who'd quit 3 months ago, confirmed it all. "He took 40% of the tips, Mr. Vance," she told me, her voice still shaking slightly over the phone. "Called it a management fee. When I asked if that was legal, my hours got cut to almost nothing. I couldn't afford to stay." 2 others confirmed the exact same story. By Sunday night, I had it all. 43 instances of theft on video. Over $31,000 stolen from So there I was, Julian Vance, standing in front of my staff, watching the woman who showed me kindness break down in silent tears. And standing next to her was the guy I'd trusted to manage my whole operation, a guy who was about to get the shock of his pathetic life. Marcus. I focused entirely on him. My voice flat, devoid of emotion. "You told me Thursday was a slow night. You said the total tips were $835. Is that correct?" Marcus shifted in his chair, suddenly sweating under the expensive wool of his suit. Yes, it was slow. We had a lot of bad tippers. My POS system shows $835 in credit card tips alone." I corrected him, leaning in. "Plus an estimated $400 in cash based on typical ratios. That's over $1,200 total. Can you explain the discrepancy?" Silence, heavy, suffocating silence. Marcus looked around, desperate for an out. I didn't wait. I pulled out my laptop, turned it to face the whole room, and hit play. The security footage began streaming on the screen. Marcus's face, alone in the back office, late at night, closing the door, pulling the tip jar. The casual efficiency, the practiced movement of his fingers, counting the cash with his back to the camera, but his hands clearly visible as he slid a thick wad of bills into his jacket pocket. Gasps echoed around the room. I could hear the sharp intake of breath from the bartender. "Sam." 43 times, I said quietly, letting the tape continue to run. Over 8 weeks, I had my IT director compile every instance. "Every single shift you managed, Marcus." The footage showed him checking the door, sliding bills into his jacket, recounting what little remained, and dividing it up. "You stole an estimated $12,800 in those 8 weeks alone. And when I audited the last 18 months, the total rises to over $31,000 for employees." Another server, Jason, looked absolutely furious. Sam, the bartender, sat frozen in pure shock. Chloe, she just sobbed silently, her whole body shaking. Chloe Hayes. I pulled up the spreadsheet. The numbers sickeningly clear. $11,200 stolen from you over 18 months. I rattled off the rest of the names. The amounts like blows. Jason Davis, $8,100. Sam the bartender, $5,100. Another server, Emily, $6,800. Those are just estimates. Marcus finally sputtered, standing up, trying to regain control. "You can't prove that." "No, they're not estimates," I corrected him, my voice gaining that cold, hard edge again. They are calculations based on POS data cross-referenced with your bank deposits. I pulled out the deposit slips, a document I had meticulously prepared. November 7th, you deposited exactly $1,235 into your personal account. The exact amount of the discrepancy. October 31st, exact match. November 3rd, exact match. Marcus's confident posture collapsed like a broken marionette. He fell back into his chair, defeated. I turned back to Chloe, whose sobs were starting to subside into shuddering breaths. "Chloe," I said softly, "do you have anything you'd like to share with everyone?" Everyone in the room turned to her. She looked utterly lost for a moment, then slowly, deliberately, she stood up. Her legs were shaky, but she walked to her locker just outside the conference room's glass wall. We all watched. She reached behind her extra uniform, and she pulled out that worn manila envelope. She returned and placed it on the table. The label faced up, Ethan's Education Fund. She opened it. Papers spilled across the table, 48 pieces of napkins, receipts, torn order tickets. "I've been documenting everything," she said, her voice shaking but holding steady. "Every shift for 9 weeks. Every dollar I counted from." Sam, the bartender, spoke up hesitantly. "What if management retaliates for reporting? Then they get fired," I stated simply. "Zero tolerance policy. It's in writing in your new employee handbook, effective today. Retaliation for reporting legitimate concerns is grounds for immediate termination with cause." Finally, the moment everyone was waiting for. "Fifth," I said, "what about the money Marcus took? Every stolen dollar gets repaid with 18% interest for the time you've been without it." I pulled out the envelopes, each containing a bank check. "Emily Williams, $6,800 stolen. With interest, that's $8,020 for dollars." Emily stared at the check, tears streaming down her face. "Jason Davis, $8,100 stolen. With interest, $9,558. Jason took the check with shaking hands. "Sam the bartender, $5,100 stolen. With interest, $6,180. Sam covered his mouth, sobbing openly. "Chloe Hayes," I said, walking to her. She stood, barely able to keep her legs steady. $11,200 stolen. With interest, that's $13,216. I handed her the envelope. She opened it, stared at the check, and nearly collapsed. Emily and Sam moved to hold her up. "I can't," she whispered, through full-body shaking sobs of pure relief. "It's yours. It was always yours, Chloe. I'm just returning what was stolen." "But that's not all," I said. Waiting for the sobs to subside just a little, Chloe looked up at me through her tears. Confused, "I'm offering you the position of assistant general manager," I announced. The room went silent again. "I can't." She shook her head vehemently. "I'm just a server." "No, you're not just anything," I interrupted, my voice firm. "Thursday night, you documented injustice for 48 days. You treated customers with dignity when your manager punished you for it. You protected younger staff members. You never gave up, never stopped doing the right thing. That's not service. That's leadership." I pulled out another document. "Assistant General Manager. 35% salary increase over your current pay. Full benefits package." I paused, meeting her eyes. "Including full health care with dependent coverage. Chloe, your son Ethan's chronic medical needs, the insulin, the test strips, the pump supplies. The specialists all covered. Zero copay for chronic disease management." Chloe collapsed completely into her chair, her face buried in her hands, her whole being convulsing with silent, seismic sobs of relief. The constant terror of affording Ethan's health the weight she'd been carrying for years lifted all at once. The other staff gathered around her. I gave them a minute, then finished quietly. "And there's a $3,000 annual education stipend for professional development." I glanced at the envelope still on the table, "for Ethan's Education Fund. A real one. Will you help me make sure this place stays what it's supposed to be?" I extended my hand. Chloe looked up, saw the nodding and tearful encouragement of her co-workers, and looked at the check in her shaking fingers. She stood, still trembling, and took my hand firmly. "Yes," she choked out. The room erupted in applause. 3 months later. The gilded compass had transformed. Chloe was standing near the kitchen pass, wearing her new navy blue manager shirt with Assistant GM embroidered on the pocket. Training to new college students. Everyone who walks through that door matters, she explained to them. The words echoing her own philosophy. Rich, poor, dressed up, dressed down, they all get the same respect. That's not optional. That's who we are. At the bar, I was reviewing the weekly transparent tip report with Jason and Sam. The numbers were perfect. Can I ask something, Mr. Vance? Jason asked. That anonymous tip line. Does anyone actually read those? I personally read every single one, I confirmed, pulling out my phone and showing them the dashboard. Last month, 23 submissions. Most were positive feedback. A couple of maintenance concerns we fixed immediately. And nobody got in trouble for reporting? Not a single person. That's the whole point, in a corner booth. 7-year-old Ethan Hayes sat doing his homework, his insulin pump visible on his armored device that was no longer a symbol of financial ruin, but just a part of his life. I found Chloe at the end of her shift. The staff says you're checking on everyone, the dishwashers, the busboys, everyone. That's not in your job description. Chloe smiled. My dad used to say taking care of people isn't a job description. It's a job qualification. She paused, her eyes crinkling. And you know,